This first chapter is about posture. And right at the top, he talks about having good head and shoulders. And that's something we haven't presented very often here in our meditation instruction. We usually really start out talking about having a strong back, upright. But head and shoulders can be very helpful as a visualization that your shoulders are straight, your head is resting right on top of them, not leaning forward or tilted back. And actually, if you have good head and shoulders, it's pretty difficult to have bad posture. So it works in both directions. So heads up, be alert. And this actually goes right to the heart of the matter. The sitting practice, and for that matter, the entire path, is not about retreating into yourself, seeking a comfortable place to cut off from this messy world of ours. It's about being fully present, awake, alert, upright, like the Buddha. You're not going to see an image of the Buddha kicking back in his lazy boy. He's always upright unless he's on his deathbed. So emulate the Buddha. Now, much of the chapter covers material that we are familiar with to some extent, and I'm not going to spend much time going over a lot of the details here. Of course, during questions and answers, feel free to bring that up if you'd like. But I would like to spend the time I have addressing a few things that I think are worthy of exploration. For one thing, avoid extremes. There can be a tendency to overdo it. We must sit upright with a good, strong, upright posture. It's very important to have a good, strong back. He says that in the reading. Good head and shoulders. But don't overdo it. Sitting should not be a strain. If you find yourself really relax. Not too tight, not too loose. We sit on a cushion or a chair, and after taking your seat and bringing yourself upright, and then relax, then scan the body and work with any tension or discomfort you may feel. If there's discomfort, try working with it rather than just reacting automatically. Take a moment and identify the sensation. It may be possible to make a small adjustment or to send some relaxation or warmth to that part of the body. And in some cases, a discomfort may be something that you can simply accept and let it be part of your awareness, of your meditation, but not a focus of attention. It may be that the body is just adjusting to a new way of holding itself, but don't overdo it. This is not about pain. The presentation of the guidelines for good posture are very specific. And for those of us with naturally good posture, this may be a piece of cake. You say, sit up straight, good head and shoulders, you bet. But for many of us, like myself, who have these aging bodies, not so much. So it's okay to make adjustments. Here again, don't overdo it. Avoid giving into comfort seeking. Work with it. Work with sitting like the Buddha. Sometimes over time, by working with it, you may find that you can approach that ideal more closely. In some cases, it may be very helpful to use certain support cushions sometimes under the knees if you're sitting cross-legged, or other devices. I don't know, but don't overdo it. We can develop a fascination or a dependency with having exactly the right objects, the right equipment, the right setting, the right chair, the right cushion. The meditation can take on an aura of something very special. But meditation is actually a completely natural thing, an ordinary part of our life, something that one can do anywhere there is time and a place free from too much distraction. The point here is that we're finding a way to sit and remain still and upright and relaxed. Having to strain or endure real pain is not helpful. Be kind to yourself and treat your body with respect and care. And relax. Relaxation, I keep saying it, and it's important for several reasons. And for one thing, because stillness is important. It is important that each of us makes whatever adjustments we need to find, whatever adjustments we need to find an upright posture, relax into it, and remain there, still, not moving. If you're having to strain or fidgeting, the mind will follow. So there needs to be a sense of stability. It can be helpful to visualize a connection with the earth by feeling the pressure of your bottom or the soles of your feet supporting your weight. Visualize that as a connection to the earth. You can visualize yourself sitting like a mountain, resting, stable, no effort required. Now, a word about cushions. I'm just bringing this up because in the reading, he refers to something called a gamden. He also mentions kneeling benches and, the round zafu cushion from the Zen tradition. You don't really need to concern yourself with these things at this point. The point here is that you should be rested, you should be seated on something that provides a good, stable place to rest your bottom. A question that may come up is, why spend so much time on posture? And you've heard many times that mind follows the body, and it does. And the body tends to follow the mind. In sitting meditation, when you return from thoughts, on occasion, check your posture. You may find that it has changed. That while you were off somewhere in the past or future, your body has gone off. And you may find that your head is sunken down, or you're slumping, or you're off kilter in some way. And it's a good opportunity to bring yourself back, not only your mind and your attention, but your body. Working with the mind and body in this way, we begin to we begin to synchronize the mind and body. The body is upright, eyes open, the mind is alert, open to whatever may arise. And this can only happen in the present moment. The body is always in the present moment. When our thoughts take us into the past or future, we're not synchronized with the body anymore. So we sit, our mind and body synchronized. We sit with good head and shoulders like a warrior without aggression. We sit with a straight back of confidence without pride. We sit upright and unmoving like a mountain. We sit upright, eyes open, with a strong back and an open heart like the Buddha. Like the Buddha, awake, ready for anything. We sit with panoramic awareness, ready to respond compassionately to whatever arises. I think that's it.
John, you're
Oops, you're
muted.
muted. You're muted, John. There you go.
Thank you. Thanks, Barry. And we're going to save the Q&A for the end and continue on. These chapters mix the subjects. The subject of posture continues in the next chapter as well. There's a lot to say about it. I want to make one comment that in the beginning of the chapter that Barry covered, Trungpa Rinpoche mentions that we're working with mind which perceives and thinks about mental events. That means thoughts, emotions, and so forth. We're also working with the mind that is constantly, clearly present and sees the arising of all phenomena. The thinking mind, the little mind, as they call it in the Soto Zen tradition, small mind, little mind, as opposed to big mind, thinks, disappears, thinks, disappears. The big mind, the mind that's always aware of something, one of the six knowables or more, many of them, never stops. And really what we're working with is coming back from the little mind, which is called Sem in Tibetan. It is usually translated as, in the Nyingma tradition, they translate it as ordinary mind. And we're coming back from this small ordinary mind that thinks about this, thinks about that, has this emotion, that hatred, this affection, whatever it may have, and comes back to this big, clear, always ever present, ubiquitous awareness. Posture is a great help because, as Barry said, mind follows body and vice versa. I always think about a movie that I've loved over the years, which I'm sure some of you have seen. It's one of the great movies of all time. It's The Seven Samurai by Akira Kurosawa. And in the beginning of that movie, you get a real picture of the sort of the samurai mentality of awareness. You see, this whole idea, we're in a posture, sometimes it's called the warrior posture. This posture of having an erect back, hands simply on the thighs, eyes open and clear. And they're not talking about a warrior in terms of aggression. They're talking about a warrior more in the samurai sense of being ready for anything. And in the beginning of that movie, a samurai takes a job. Some villagers are being attacked by bandits, and they come and they try and hire these samurai. And this is in the set in the Ronin period. This is the period when the samurai were all being sort of losing their jobs. And a lot of samurai were roaming Japan looking for anything so that they could eat because the Tokugawa family had consolidated control of Japan and disarmed all of the families that were, and dissolved all their armies of samurai. So these samurai were out of work. And these villagers hire these samurai who are sort of bemused by the idea that they're going to just work for some poor food for these villagers. And this fellow, the main one, sets up shop in a little hut, and he gets the word out that he's looking for samurai to take a job. And they come in, and what he does is he has an assistant, sort of a young samurai who's inexperienced, and he stations him just inside the door with a club and tells him, as the samurais who come and are applying for the job come in, club them, right? And that's this guy's job, to club the samurai as they walk through the door. And they don't see him, he's hiding behind the door. And I just remember there was one samurai who's sort of a dandy, and he comes in and he's got a metal fan in his hands, like this as he walks in. And as he walks in, he bends down because there's a low threshold on the door, and he just instantly puts the fan up and wards off the blow as it comes down. And then he looks at the main samurai who's sitting on the floor in front of him, and he just starts laughing, and the two of them laugh, and then he sits down and they start talking. It's an example or a demonstration of this mythic, on the spot, open awareness. And really, when we take a firm, upright posture, we're taking the posture of being ready for anything, open, alert, awake, cheerful. But that guy laughed when he sat down after he warded off the blow. And all of them did, in one way or another, until the last one, who was kind of a buffoon. He's the seventh samurai. So if you ever want to see a terrific movie, I recommend Kurosawa's film, with many others by him. So we are taking the posture of cheerful, awake, alert presence. It's a wonderful thing to do. And there's something he says here I thought this was very evocative. He says, working with posture is the means to release the tension and frustration that exist in the mind. Straightening your posture will satisfy it, the mind, just like giving milk to a crying baby or opening the doors and windows in a stuffy room. Good posture works on the mind just like that. It helps. It's really lovely. So we are working then, as we begin to do our practice, with this open awareness of the space and with the breath going out into it. And as I said in the meditation, we used to call this, or Trungpa Rinpoche called it 75-25, which is figurative. It's not literal. The idea is that the bulk of your awareness is here in the space, aware of the room, the air. And then in the middle of that, like a figure on a ground, the breath goes out, a line, dissolving as it goes. That's the 25. The 75 is the space, the 25 is the breath. The ground is the space of awareness. The breath is like a highlight, a figure drawn on the ground. So the breath goes out, the 25, and at the end of the out breath, it has completely dissolved into the space, and it's 100% space. And then the breath comes in again. You don't pay much attention to it at all. It's just a reset, because the whole point is to go out. And the reason we're going out is basically this all one reason, that we're breathing out our self-awareness, our self-concern, our self-obsession. We're breathing out that self-concern, and it goes out with the breath. We are the breath. We identify with the breath, and it dissolves, and the sense of I is dissolving with it. When there's only the breath in the space, then effectively you are the breath. When you're not the breath, then there are two of you going on. There's the breath going out, and there's this watcher The watcher is like an extra voice. I always thought of it as a parrot sitting on my shoulder saying, that's good, that's bad, don't do this, do that. It's like an extra voice. Trungpa Rinpoche used to call it, that voice, the watcher, the hitchhiker, because it's unnecessary. It's catching a ride on your shoulder. And so when you let it go, then there's just this awareness and just the breath. No extraneous comment, no judgment, no good or bad, and you are the breath. The breath is going out, dissolving this. He says, to review, first you hear the gong and you settle. You become aware of your body in this space. Then you go out with the out breath. Chew goes out. Then you come back to your posture. When the breath dissolves, there's this, which includes the body, the posture. So you have the mind together with the breath, with the body as an overall reference point. Your head and shoulders are erect as if you were a great warrior, he says. And again, I just think of the seventh samurai. Never slouch. When you slouch, it looks sad and complainatory, and your mind tends to follow. He says this, with good posture, you feel uplifted. It overcomes drowsiness. It helps to overcome it. Overcomes laziness. Overcomes aggression. And overcomes the desire to take time off and escape from awareness, from the Dharma. So there are all these different postures you can take. You can sit in a chair. The preferred posture, which gets harder as we get older, is to sit on the ground, on a cushion, on the floor. Why? Because you feel connected with the earth. And that's a good thing. You feel very solid, rooted. If you do, there are very few people who can sit in full lotus. Hey, I've known one or two in my life, 3 or 4 maybe, with any ease. And if you're flexible and you've done a lot of yoga, you might be doing half lotus. And if you're like me, at this point in my life, I sit Indian cross-legged style, American Indian, just cross-legged. But I do sit on a cushion, and I just want to show you some of the cushions that are available. You can sit on anything that works, but what you want is something that gives you support. This is a zafu. It's from the Zen tradition. You can get them filled with different substances. I recommend filled with buckwheat rather than kapok. Here is a gamden. Gamden literally means meditation seat. It's filled with hard foam, and it gives you a very firm support. I recommend some cushion, unless you're very, very flexible and you can sit flat on the floor. And then also I recommend, there's a support cushion that we use with students of Trungpa Rinpoche. It's called a zabuton in the Zen tradition. It's flat, it's about this thick, and it's about 3 feet square. And no, that's the support cushion. That's not a zabuton. Thank you though, Valerie. That's an extra little cushion. Sometimes if you want more height, you might put that on top of a gamden or under a zafu. That's support cushion. Sitting on the floor is great, but if you must sit in a chair because of physical constraints, that's fine too. And if you sit in a chair, what you would like to do is to not use the back of the chair to support your back. Ideally, you would be straight in the chair, and I am at the moment, without using the back. Most chairs, almost every chair, will force your back to the back. The cure for that is to put a cushion under your bottom. And that's why I'm sitting on this zafu. You put it under your bottom and you scrunch it up a little bit in the back. It tilts your pelvis forward and you find that you have an easily erect spine without using the back of the chair and without strain. You can do this with a cushion from your couch. It doesn't have to be a zafu. You just need to experiment and find out what works for you. He says, relate with the floor, the earth, as it were, and feel the space around your body. By sitting upright, you are proclaiming to yourself and to the rest of the world that you are going to become a Buddha, awake one day, soon. Okay. So the general guidelines for meditation, you have a sense of the space around you. You relax your gaze. Your eyes are open because we're practicing vipassana, awareness practice. Mindfulness is also a part of it, definitely. Mindfulness means coming back from dream into the present moment. And we can use an object of meditation. It could be the breath, it could be a mantra, it could even be the space right here, this room. And it brings us back. Awareness, the second aspect of this meditation, means seeing everything that's going on. When you're practicing pure awareness practice, you could be a better driver of your car because your awareness is panoramic. You're seeing everything. You wouldn't want to practice just mindfulness while you're driving your car, of just watching the breath. Then you could have a serious accident. But awareness practice, being here in the space, makes you better at everything, more alive, more present, more accurate. The hands, you relax your gaze, you have a very normal gaze. Your hands are in one of the mudras that we teach. Either the simplest one is palms down on the thighs, elbows by your side, helps bring your shoulders back. But there's also this, what's sometimes called the cosmic mudra in the reading. It's also called the begging bowl mudra. And it's held just below the navel. You breathe through your nose and or mouth. And if you're breathing, you might try, this is the Buddha, you see him in statues, his lips are slightly parted, like that. And if you choose to do that, then you want to put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, just behind the front teeth. It helps control salivation. You take your seat and you project out into the room, into the awareness. And it says, as if you were a universal monarch, the Chakravartin it's called in Sanskrit, or the enlightened one. And you also listen to Dharma talks this way, the teachings. It's recommended because it makes you more open, more alert, more ready. So you don't control your breath. You just breathe naturally. If you've just climbed a flight of stairs and sat down to meditate, your breathing might be rapid. That's fine. After you've sat for a while and meditated, your breathing might become very shallow. That's fine. You don't control your breath. You just are aware of it, whatever it's doing. Your breathing might be affected by what you've just eaten, all kinds of things. And you just let it be what it is. The in-breath is just a reset. You wait and then you go out. The awareness is on the out-breath. Eventually you have to stop paying any attention to the in-breath. It's just out, dissolve, this. Out, dissolve, this. And there are a variety of reasons, a number of reasons for why we work with the out-breath. One is that we're breathing out and we're letting out our ego concerns. When you close your eyes and do shamatha practice, pure shamatha. Say you're working with the breath or you're working with a mantra and you're counting and your eyes are closed. Your attention is very interior. And when it's interior like that, it's inside, it's dark, and you tend to try harder. There's more sense of effort and a sense of how am I doing? Whereas with this kind of practice, the Vipassana, the breath going out, dissolving into the space, and your awareness is right here, there's a tremendous relaxation that occurs, a relaxing of your awareness, a relaxing of your effort, and a breathing out of the sense of I with all of its anxieties. You breathe out, dissolve, and I is going out and dissolving with it. Out breath, dissolve, and then he says gap. Now that word gives people a lot of difficulty. A friend who sometimes shows up for these classes, Tony Bright, sent me a picture of the subway in Adelaide, Australia, where he lives. And on the floor, just like in New York subways, it says, mind the gap. Well, the gap is when you go out, the breath goes out, it dissolves, and then you just let go into this present moment. That's all it is. The absence of effort, the absence of I. Yeah, the in-breath is just a rest. Sometimes you could regard the in-breath as a gap. Out-breath, dissolve, out-breath, dissolve, like that. And thoughts become transparent. They become just like little things going across the sky, little birds. Yeah, counting isn't necessary. You can count the breaths. And if you count the breath, you go out, dissolve, 1. Out, dissolve, 2. And you might go up to whatever number. In this chapter, he talks about going up to 10 and then starting over. Sometimes they say go up to 7. 7 is kind of a magical number in Hindu or Indian lore. And then he also says, finally, though, that it's not necessary to count the breaths at all. It's better to be just focused on the quality of being here. That the out breath goes out, it dissolves, and there's this sense of being present right here in the room. And finally, he talks about boredom, which we've discussed before as well. Boredom is really essential, an essential part of this practice. You see, ego, confusion, is always about I, the hero or the heroine of a story. And that story is all about I. It's like the perils of Pauline. Back in the 19th century, there were traveling shows that went around the country and did stage shows. And it was about Pauline, who was always being abducted or threatened by the villain and then being saved by the hero. And each episode would end, with her being tied to the railroad tracks or something similar, and the train coming, and would she be saved? And then the next episode, she is. Well, ego thrives on that sense of peril, of entertainment. Will I get it? Won't I get it? I. It lives in these stories we tell ourselves about ego, about I. They're always stories fraught with promise, danger, peril. And these stories are just fictions. They're dreams. They come and go. Sometimes you tell yourself that story, sometimes you don't. Over the years, they change and they become different stories. They are just stories, but they have a function. And that function is to keep I alive, because I only lives in those stories. I is the hero or the heroine of those stories. When we sit and we tell those stories over and over again, we begin to become bored. Boredom is a great savior. It cuts that entertainment value of the stories. And in the beginning, that boredom is hot boredom. You're sitting there thinking, oh gosh, can't wait for this meditation session to end. Maybe I can have a fantasy of some sort that's going to entertain me. And then you come up with something about, might be an aggressive fantasy, it might be a sexual fantasy, it might be a fantasy of how you're going to have this great meal, who knows what, to entertain yourself, to make the time fly, because the boredom is hot, it's unpleasant. Eventually, though, as you begin to settle in, settle down, let ego, that voice, the I, start to quiet down, the boredom becomes cooler and cooler. And at some point, it begins to become actually refreshing. It's that you have the confidence to sit, no matter what, through anything and everything, like a mountain. And that boredom, they say, becomes, instead of hot boredom, it becomes like a cool mountain stream flowing over the rocks, going down. So boredom is our friend. Hot boredom and then cool boredom. Cool boredom comes from sitting. The last thing I want to say is that, and I know many of you have heard this all before, is that the best benefit that you can get from this will come from having a regular practice, as much as you can every day. And I struggled with this for years. It's difficult. The most difficult part of your practice is simply getting your bottom down on the chair or on the cushion to do it. And also, probably the most valuable part of your practice is getting your bottom down on the chair or on the cushion to do it. The reason it's so difficult is that ego, those stories that we tell ourselves that always are about I and other, have a terrific speed and momentum to them. And we feel, especially, and when we're caught up in those stories, as though we're in a forward lean with our feet moving underneath us. Trungpa Rinpoche used to call it neurotic speed, that forward lean. And in the morning when you wake up and you start thinking, well, what do I have to do today? Maybe I should check my email. I'll have a cup of coffee, something to eat. And suddenly you're already into that forward lean of the day. Meditation is a timeout, to use the thing that they use in football, timeout. It's like saying you're going to cut that speed. And that's why it's so difficult to have a regular practice. So even a short regular practice, and by short, I mean 5-10 minutes, has the terrific virtue that you have actually put a stop to that neurotic speed for however long. It might be for as long as it takes you to plunk your bottom down in the chair or on the cushion, and then your mind is off again. Who knows? But that is a terrific aspect of meditation. It's worth it, and it will begin to have its effect. And if you can sit longer, great. Another thing that I would recommend, besides regularity, short and regular is better than long and infrequent, is to do anything you can to routinize your meditation practice. And by that I mean pick a time of day when you're going to do it regularly so that you get in the habit. It becomes routine. Have a spot in your home, your apartment, your house, where you always do it. Maybe have some accoutrements, like if you're sitting on the floor, your meditation cushion. If you're sitting in a chair, a particular setup for that chair. And You might even have, what I've got behind me is a shrine but I've been doing this a long time, and I've collected all this stuff over the years. And you can have a little meditation shrine with a table. Anything that you can do to make it easier to have a regular practice, no matter how short, is to the good. Finally, I just say this about meditation practice. Its effect is very powerful, and it comes almost without you noticing it. You can notice effects in the moment, in the day, but the real effect of meditation comes, it's like you've grown something inside you, a kind of calm and kindness and awareness that sneaks up. And one day you just sort of notice that things have changed inside your state of mind. So it's very powerful, it's very organic, and here we are. So we could have a discussion.
John, just a question about glasses. I found it to be a different experience when I like wear them, when I'm just really resting in awareness, or if I don't have them on. It's like kind of, if I don't have them on, I find it's just easier to just kind of go out and dissolve into the buzz. But I don't know, what's been your experience with glasses or not having glasses on?
It'd be up to you. I recommend having them on because you're training yourself in a kind of awareness that you will take out into the world. There's what's called sitting meditation, and then it's a funny name for it. It's called post-meditation. What post-meditation really means is meditation in daily life. It's not really post-meditation, it's continuing meditation, but in your daily life. It's the most difficult practice because there's so many triggers in our environment that trigger us into thought. You see someone you like and you go off into dream. You see someone you don't like and you go off into dream, whatever it might be. Whereas when we're sitting on the cushion, it's sort of a lab experience, like a laboratory, and it's easier. But really, the point of this practice is to be able to take it into daily life. And in daily life, you're going to be wearing your glasses. So, but it's completely up to you. If you want to, it's like we're not zoning out when we sit down on the cushion. We are coming present, awake, alert. You might think of it as zoning out, especially at the stage of just doing pure shamatha. Shamatha is literally what it means is abiding in peace. And it's because when you practice shamatha and you come back from thought, you get a rest from the anxiety of thought. And so people, it's taught, John Kabat-Zinn, teaching it in hospitals and in situations where people are undergoing stress as a way of relieving the stress. Shamatha, pure shamatha. Ultimately, if shamatha is taken to its extreme, there are what are called in Sanskrit the dhyana states. In Pali, in the Southeast Asian Buddhist tradition, they're called the jhana states. These are states of pure concentration. They're actually trance states where your mind is focused so one-pointedly on an object that you lose contact with the world. These states are seen as being very dangerous. You can get stuck in them for long periods of time. And there are lots of stories about great teachers wandering around and finding some yogi in a cave who's gotten stuck in a dhyana or two, and the body withers away. And they say it can be so extreme that the body withers completely away until all that's left is a palpitating heart. I'm quoting. And this is not to be desired. And what the great teacher would do is he'd wake that yogi up and say, "You've gotten stuck in a dhyana, get on with it," and bring him back to the practice of mindfulness awareness. You know, the dhyanas are very peaceful. So we're not practicing the dhyanas. And really, I think taking off your glasses might be sort of heading in that direction just a teeny little bit, you know, looking for peace. Trungpa Rinpoche also said that while shamatha literally translates as abiding in peace, it does in Tibetan too, shine in Tibetan, shamatha in Sanskrit, that shamatha, that peace is just a byproduct. And that really what shamatha is about precision, seeing precisely the breath, whatever the object of meditation is. And we carry that precision into our awareness practice as well, our vipassana practice. So, great question. Thank you. A lot of us wear glasses.
Can I just pop in here for a second? I think it goes without saying, if you normally don't wear glasses, you're like somebody like me who only wears glasses for reading, then
Yeah.
you might want to do the reverse.
Mhm.
Okay. Right.
Thank you.
And if you're like me, who's just getting cataract surgery, oh boy, that stage of life.
Kurt has a question, I think.
Okay, Kurt, and then Steve.
Yeah, I do. This I think came up from the thought of posture and the body. It's kind of embarrassing. I watch myself do this. It's the itch. I'll be meditating here, and then I'll have itch on my cheek, and that starts becoming my focus. And I know in myself from the experience that once I scratch that itch, it moves someplace else in my body. And I can find myself chasing this itch around my body. And the alternative is to just watch that itch and try not to go there. And then it can get so intense. And it's this crazy thing I have in this relationship with this body. I don't know if I'm the only one or what, but just wondering if there's any thought around that.
Okay, this also applies to pain, experiencing pain. And there's really no one answer for this. Things change over time. And that itch, you know, in another year, you may be not even thinking about it, not even remembering it. Who knows? But the main thing is you can experiment with it to see how much of it is psychosomatic, psychological. But don't torture yourself. Same thing with pain, like pain in your knees or wherever, if you've got it. You know, this isn't an exercise in heroism. It's an exercise in watching your mind and awareness. So you might experiment with it, you know, and see how long, if you don't do anything about it, will it go away? Was it just psychological? Same thing with pain. And you might just scratch it and have done with it. And if it moves around, do it again, who knows? Really,
yeah, it's funny because sometimes it feels like it is this distraction because I'm bored. And so now I've got this itch to entertain me for a while. And, yeah, it's
come back to the breath. Come back to the breath going out. See, the breath is like, it's like, I think of it like, you know, in your car, you've got those handles that help you get out of your car sometimes, you know, you reach up and grab the handle and lever yourself out of the seat, you know, especially in a sports car, maybe where it's low slung. Well, that's what the breath is like. The breath is like a handle that you're using to lever yourself out of dream, like the dream about what am I going to do about this itch? You know, and you come back to the breath and it goes out and you give it all your attention and you experiment. It's your mind, my mind.
It's my itch.
And
Okay, thank you.
how about Stephen Levy Wheeler?
I was gonna say, Kurt, I also have that issue with the itch. I totally hear you.
Can't hear you, Steve. Having trouble?
I'll try to move a little closer then. I was gonna say I have the same experience as Kurt does with the itch thing. You're not alone. But I just wanted to say, as strange as it is, I appreciate you going through the different cushions and the and even kind of spending so much time on posture, because I have back issues. Like I have a deteriorating disc in my lower back, so uh, this kind of it's difficult for me to kind of do the whole posture thing. And I just want I also appreciate that you. I guess everything I've always read was always like, oh, you want to do full lotus position. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, well, I guess half lotus is okay. Oh, but never do Indian style. Oh, I guess, oh, I guess you can sit in a chair if you really have to. Like that was kind of the whole attitude I got with everything. But I appreciate your frankness with like, and just going over the cushions and stuff. I think I'm gonna try some things. So thank you for being so down to earth about that.
Yeah. Is that it? Yeah, that's good about the full lotus. I've been at this 50 years since I started meditating more. I've known fewer than that many people who could really do full lotus. I mean, who could sit there and not be in pain. It's just,
We have a couple joining us every morning.
I know we do. It's amazing
I love it.
in the morning. Yeah.
And by the way, if I may, speaking as a person who had a lifetime of lousy posture behind me when I started meditating, and when I was told that I had to sit up straight, I would say that's not possible because it wasn't for me. And but you work with it. That's what I found. Little by little, I was surprised. Actually, change is possible.
And
But
how
be
many of us,
kind to yourself.
and how many of us remember our mothers telling us, stand up straight? Okay, let's see. Tyler has her hand raised.
Hi, thank you for today's class. I'm just curious, how do you combat fixating on the in-breath and focusing most of your attention on the out-breath?
This is a question that always comes up. I've been listening to this question and having it myself years ago. Just relax. You work with the out-breath, it goes out, dissolves. If you're aware of the in-breath too, no problem. It's just the turning point, a reset, And the more you relax about it and don't care, the more it won't be an issue. But if you try to get rid of it, then it's like, don't think about a pink elephant. Right?
Yeah, because I think like after reading today's papers or the book, I was kind of trying to get rid of my in-breath and it made me very uncomfortable and I just didn't fully grasp what it was trying to say. So, yeah.
If you turn it into an enemy, it's there. It's there. It'll be there for you. So you just relax about it. Don't worry about it. If you're aware of it, no problem. Nobody's judging you. It's really, you're enjoying the benefit of going out, dissolving, and being awake here in the present moment. And there's nobody keeping score except you. And it doesn't matter. It's much worse to beat yourself up about being aware of the in-breath than it is to be aware of the in-breath. And we've all, many of us, I think, have been through this. And there are times when I sit after all this time and I'm aware of the in-breath. I just notice it. Then you let it go and go back to the technique, the meditation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy?
Yeah, I was going to say I had that in-breath business for a long time. And one of the intermediate steps in not paying much attention to it was to say the word "and" when during the in-breath, and relax, and relax. Relax would be the out-breath.
Yeah.
And for quite a long while, I did that. And it seemed to help me release that over attention to the in breath.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there.
A couple more words about posture. I just want to show you a zabuton. Here's a zabuton. You see it's pretty big, and it's only about an inch or two thick. And it's nice to have under you if you're sitting on the floor. It cushions your knees and so forth. Another thing I wanted to mention, I don't have it here. You can also, some people like to sit on a meditation bench. It's a little short bench on the floor, and you put your what do you call it, from the knee down, that part of your leg under the bench, and your bottom is sitting on the bench so that your knees are on the floor. That's acceptable. One thing that's not acceptable is to take a cushion and put it between your legs and sit on that in a kneeling position. That's not a good posture to use for meditation. But
Unfortunately, pretty popular in some places.
Yeah. You never see anybody in a Zen center is doing that. Yeah. Or Tibetans for that matter. Okay, who else?
Oh, Karen, Valerie, Danielle.
Did they have somebody else?
They're all waving.
Okay. How about, was it like Danielle?
Hi, I think I was third, but my question's small. It's just that I always fall asleep. I always try to doze off, like it just happens. And that's my problem, is going to sleep. So, and now I'm itchy because everybody's been talking about itches, but my body just goes to sleep. I'm just like that. I don't know if it's just the times I do it, in the morning or whatever.
You do it in the morning?
Well, when I join you guys, I'm still tired. So I just feel like going to sleep, and it's hard to stay awake. That's just my problem.
This is a very common problem. And there's really no answer. I mean, I remember Trump Rinpoche telling one of his students, he says, "Don't worry, just try not to fall off your cushion." And I remember one time I had a friend, I actually watched him, we were at a big group meditation, and I watched him just completely go on.
I haven't done that yet. I just go like this. I go like that. So.
No, I
oh, good.
Completely fall off. So you just work with it. It's a problem that many, almost all of us have at one time or another. And if you could experiment, you could take a little nap and then come back and continue practicing.
Yeah.
You could do that. There are no rules about this. I mean, there's nobody giving out a score, right? So
True.
You just work with what works for you. And by the way, I wanted to mention that if you want to buy cushions, you can find them online. The Gamden is harder to find, that square one. And there's one place that I know that has it. It's called Samadhi Cushions. They're in Barnet, Vermont. They've been there a long time. I think soon they're still operating during the pandemic. And they have lots of stuff. Who else was there? There were several other people.
Valerie, Karen, and now Mark.
Okay, let's go with Valerie.
Oh, thank you. Hi. I just wanted to say about pain. A couple of years ago, I had knee surgery, and my experience, and I was just starting to sit with John, and in this tradition, I was like, I couldn't bear my leg. It was just excruciating. But then I started to make friends with it, and I started to get curious, like, what's going on in there with that little piece of titanium? And I just kind of made friends with it. I felt like sending healing to it and letting myself focus on it a bit, and working with the breath kind of dissipated, each time. Of course, it kept coming back for weeks, months, but I just wanted to offer that, my experience.
Thank you. Thank you. Karen.
So um, I was really struck by in I think it was chapter 24, it says, and this like finally just came through to me, and it says, be kind and gentle to yourself. When the gong is rung, you don't just go bam. And in taking my time, and John, you really help. So this is just really, this is the onion or the steps. You talk about this in the morning when we're meditating, and it's finally crystal clear to me. And that is that when the gong is rung, it's the point at which I begin to understand what I'm about to do. I'm just not moving to make sure my posture is correct, or am I thinking about the out breath, or all the things that you've given us. It's a progression, a very gentle, kind, sensitive progression for me to ease into my meditation. And it's so gentle and so kind and so feels so wonderful. Certainly once I get into meditating, there are all the things or some of the things that people have talked about tonight. And then when the gong rings at the end, I don't jump up or say, oh, okay, it's over. I come out of this time in this kind, gentle way. And it's really profound for me. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you for saying it. Yeah, I mean, this practice is primarily about two things: developing clear seeing in the present moment and kindness for oneself, which then extends out to others as well. That kindness has to do with allowing whatever arises in you to be there as an object of awareness. So that's the kind of kindness, it's letting be. It's not like a feeling sorry for it all. They look down on that kind of idea of compassion in the teachings. Really, it's a letting be. It's a willingness to let yourself be. That kindness. It's great. Thank you. Who else was, Mark? Did you have something, Eskenazi?
Sorry, hi. I was just thinking about the pain and the itch. We're back to that again. I was just wondering, it's really kind of part of the six knowables, isn't it? I mean, it's in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
So it can be part of, I mean, I don't know if anybody has a practice where they're focusing on these things, but it is, you're not thinking of the past, you're not thinking of the future, you're in the moment. And what Valerie was saying about it's kind of dissolving. If you focus on the itch, you can kind of feel it going away, or the pain. So that's perfectly okay, right?
up to a point with the pain.
Okay.
You don't want to turn it into self-torture. But I mean, yeah, it's a wonderful point. Well taken. Absolutely. There's a famous story about Milarepa, the 11th century yogi, student in Marpa, spent the rest of his life after he met Marpa in a cave, living in caves, and his students came and studied with him, and he got enlightened. And there's a story about him sitting and meditating, perhaps before his enlightenment, and a demoness appears. Her name is Tsering Tibetan name. And she appears and she's terrible looking, scary, and she bites his toe, you know. And he's sitting there in meditation posture and he says, "Oh, Tsering, you're incurring lots of bad karma, and you know you're disturbing a holy yogi in his path to enlightenment." And she, out of the corner of her mouth, just says, "Oh, you're just trying to get rid of me." And she won't let go until finally he accepts her, you know, her presence. And at that point, she turns into the goddess Tsering and helps him and is his helper and protector.
Interesting.
Huh?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's great.
Yeah, when you make things into your enemy, they are your enemy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was it Marpa that chose a traveling companion that was really annoying?
Yeah, there are lots of stories about that with Marpa. Yeah,
I remember that.
The tea boy.
yeah. Well, that was Atisha. Atisha was a great teacher who came to Tibet in the 12th century from India, and he was worried that when he went to Tibet, wouldn't be enough irritation for him to work with in his meditation. He had a servant, his tea boy, he called him, who was very irritating. So he took him along to provide irritation. When he got to Tibet, he found out he needn't have brought the tea boy at all, that the Tibetans were utterly irritating in their own right. That's a famous story about Atisha and his tea boy.
Steph, I think, has something.
Thank you. First of all, John, I think that story about Milarepa may have been borrowed for the Disney cartoon Moana, because there's a very similar incident there. But what I wanted to mention is what came as such a surprise to me in these chapters is that it's the out-breath that we focus on, not the in-breath. And I thought of that more as like it's not the doing, but the undoing that we focus on, which means a lot more than that. What it means is that we have it within us to be everything, complete, the Buddha, if we undo everything that we've put in the way to interfere with that. So it's such a positive thing. Just the fact that it's the out-breath that is our signpost, if you will, in meditation, rather than the in-breath. It's not the doing, it's the undoing that takes us where we're trying to go.
Thank you.
And that addresses all of these questions about how hard do I have to try, how stoic do I have to be, you don't. You have to let go. So that really was a new vision for me in connection with this. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Right.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So letting go. Egotism. Breathing out. Letting go of self-aggrandizement. Self-improvement. Relaxation. It's wonderful. And ultimately, I want to tell you that this approach carries through to the absolute end of the path. And it goes beyond working with the out-breath. At the very end, or in the more advanced stages of meditation, we say that the meditation is utterly effortless, that one is just resting in the nature. And the nature means everything. This is utter resting. It's really beautiful. So,
good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Saeed.
Hi there.
Thank you. Milarepa, Eric Emanuel Schmidt, playwright, have a book about Milarepa.
don't know what you're saying, Saeed. I'm sorry.
Yes. What?
He's saying a book about Milarepa.
Yes. Eric Emanuel Schmidt.
Yes, Eric Schmidt.
Yes, Belgian playwright.
Mhm.
I wrote the name in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, there are two books about Milarepa worth paying attention to. There's a biography of Milarepa, and there also, you see, he sang his teachings. This was a tradition that came from India. They're called Doha, these songs. And there's a book that was published of the collection of his songs. It's called The 100,000 Songs of Milarepa. And it was translated many years ago.
Yes.
And it's been retranslated more recently. And I think probably the new translation is better.
Some songs of Samsara, a book about 100 poem or verse from Milarepa.
Right.
Yes.
100,000.
I have read this book.
Good. Yeah, it's beautiful.
We have done events here where we spend all day reading them aloud, people taking turns.
Yeah. Well, we have time for maybe one more question. Anybody? One more comment? Not. We'll end with the
John?
Yes?
I always want to ask this question. I think to this for about 10 years about the relation between addiction and spiritual path. And at this place, I want ask this that other people maybe think to this a challenging question. The relationship between addiction and being. From Buddhist viewpoint, being is a kind of addiction. Yes.
I think I'm going to table this one. It'll take us too far afield, and we need to end. So on another time, we could bring this up and talk about it. Is that okay, Saeed? Thank you. All right. So we're going to close with two chants. One is to dedicate the offering on the shrine. And the second one is to dedicate the merit. Dedicating the merit in particular is a very Mahayana thing to do. What it means is that we're giving away the benefit that we have accrued through this practice. And the idea is that we're giving away our own egotism, our own sense of self-aggrandizement, and by giving away the merit to all sentient beings, which includes us, So this is the dedication of the offering, the tea offering to the shrine, and we're giving this to all sentient beings, especially hungry and poor. Assemblies of oceans of Samaya bound, accept this offering gift of Dharma. May we yogins with our disciples obtain lordship, freedom from disease, long life, glory, fame, good fortune, and all great and vast enjoyments. Grant us the cities of the pacifying and enriching actions, and so on. Samaya holders, guard us, support us with all the cities. May there be no untimely death, illness, duns, or obstructing spirits for us. May we have no nightmares, ill omens, or bad dealings. May the world enjoy peace, have good harvests, abundant grain, expansion of Dharma, and glorious auspiciousness. Accomplish whatever mind desires. And this is the dedication of merit. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great East, may the lotus garden of the Rigden's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
all. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone.
John, thanks, Barry.
Thanks all. Wonderful.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Barry.
That's great, Karen Sue.
It's true.
It's true, it is. Hey, Mark. Peter.
Hasta mañana.
Okay, bye, Errol. I'm gonna close it down.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.